Hey, everyone. Welcome to GMIHub Online. I'm Cheryl, your host, and today I'm very excited. We have got an legend band that we're going to be talking to. But before I even introduce the band, I want to introduce my fabulous co-host, Dale Borland. Dale.
Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, if you have just visited us on YouTube for the very first time, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know the next time we put up a video. And also leave a comment. Let's chat. Let's have some conversation going here because we'd love to interact with you guys. And also, you could get your questions on the show. That'd be kind of cool to actually field your questions to the band as we're talking to the Daniel Band. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so also our website is gmihub.ca. And at gmihub.ca, we'll go into more of what we're all about, and you can see what we're doing. We also want to, just before we get going, I want to remind you about our compilation Christmas CD. It's coming out this November 4th. It's called Family Christmas Volume 3. Now, Volume 3 tells you that there's 2 before it, of course, but Volume 3 is coming out November 4th. This compilation project is going to be amazing for you to have in your Christmas collection. So please go and check that out whenever it comes. It's going to be awesome. So gmihub.bandcamp.com. If you go there right now, you can actually see our first 2 projects, gmihub.bandcamp.com. And you can pick up a copy of both of those CDs. But this year, is going to be the next project. I'm so excited about it. The music has gotten better in every album we put out. The first and second one, great. Second was better than, and the third one's, I mean, it's just incredible. You guys are just going to love it. Check it out for yourself. So let's get to our conversation as we delve into the then and now of the Daniel Band.
We have the lead vocalist and bass guitarist Dan McCabe with us. We have keys, guitars, and vocalist Bill Findley with us. And we also have the lead guitarist and vocalist Tony Rossi with us. And together, these guys make up the Daniel Band. Hey guys, how are you doing? And so glad to have you here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Very encouraged to be here. Thank you.
Now, what's fabulous about you guys is that you have been around. You are one of the very few bands that have been around for, was it 40 years now? Is that correct?
40 plus. I'd say about 40,
43
or 44.
Yeah.
43.
Almost
43.
43
years.
43.
Yeah, at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys have got to share some secrets here. That's what we're here for. You know, how did you get started? And we want to hear your whole journey.
Dan and I used to play in another band called Harvest, and they were a very renowned band in the Toronto area. We did a lot of playing in the southern Ontario area. We didn't travel, the countries or other provinces, but we traveled. We did a lot of the small venues here in southern Ontario.
Okay, hang on a minute, Tony. Just back up a little bit. A little back up here, because I want to get back to the origin story. This is like this is a Marvel superhero thing. We got to get back to the origin story. When we look at where Dan met you, because you were in Harvest before Dan.
Yeah.
And Dan was in a band called Mana.
Yeah, actually, that's how Dan and I met. We were Harvest was playing at a place called One Way In, which we just did recently for their 50th anniversary, as we did our 40th for the album, our first album. And we played there way back, I guess, around 1980 or something. Harvest was playing and Mana was playing. And I'm sitting there, I think Mana opened for Harvest. And when Mana was playing, I'm looking at this skinny little, well, not too, I'm the little guy, but skinny, Dan McCabe. And I'm thinking, man, that guy can sing. I'm an awesome singer. I'd love to be in a band with that guy when they actually did think that. I mean, when we played, I think Dan told me he was saying, are Christians allowed to play guitar like that? He thought that he'd never seen anything like that before. And very fortunately for me, and I hope for Dan as well, we got to meet up later on and play together. And that was sort of the kernel, the seed of the Daniel Band right there, I think, when the two of us joined forces, and with Bill Findley. And we were filling in a lot for Harvest because Harvest kept canceling out. So whenever Harvest would cancel out, we would fill in. And I think we started off as Little Harvest. Then we decided maybe we'd call ourselves the Henderson Sisters, but we thought, no, that. I don't know if you remember that. No, that's not going to work. So, and Bill Finley came up. I remember Dan was away. I think he was on holidays or something. But Bill Finley came up with the idea. He said to me, "What about calling ourselves the Daniel Band?" I was a big fan of the prophet Daniel because whenever I read the Old Testament, even the New Testament, I always saw everyone and all their failings and all their compromises and mistakes. But when I read Daniel, I thought, man, this guy's solid. This guy's great. So when Bill Finley said the Daniel, I thought, okay, that's why I want to go with someone who doesn't compromise, someone who's just stayed close to God his whole life, even at the risk of his life. So that we Dan's presence. Everybody thinks we're named after Dan McCabe, which doesn't really matter because we're named after the Daniel Band, and it's a great. I've always thought it was an appropriate choice because I think our band has definitely stayed a true straight course, not compromising our message. We always believe that the message is first. We of course we put a lot of effort into our music, doing the best we could at that time with the resources we have. But we love Jesus, we love the Lord, and we wanted to express that to the world. And we were very fortunate to be able to record and put our ideas and our faith out to the world.
So you guys went from Harvest 2.0 to the Daniel Band. Now, Bill, how did you join? William, tell me how you joined the ranks. How did you get to see these two guys play?
Well, at the outset of Coffee House, I became a Christian through Coffee House. Actually, November 3rd, 1972, I remember, and it just seemed to be a natural, I don't know, flow for me to get involved with the coffee house, share my faith through the coffee house, and eventually I was asked to be the MC for the Friday night venues, and so my wife Jeannie and we were scouting bands, trying to get bands in, and I got to know Tony and Dan through booking and just getting to know them through prayer before and after the gigs. And I played guitar, and I think it just seemed to be that when Harvest, started to they started to wane, then Tony and Dan, well, they still want to play. So the three of us talked, and we got together and said, okay, let's find ourselves a drummer. And we started doing covers, actually, didn't we, guys? Harvest covers at first, and Randy Stonehill and some Norman stuff. And but then I think we started writing our own material, and that's when I think people really started to notice things that the message was more personal. It wasn't just miming other people's words and music. It was coming from our own hearts.
The three of you all wrote. It wasn't just one person. You were all writers, and that was what made it kind of special. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
I was just going to say, maybe Bill and Dan will remember, we were doing the cover tunes, and kind of announced to the folks at When We In, we're going to take a couple of months off, and we're going to just write our own material, and we're going to come back. And so with our own material or whatever, we actually took a hiatus. And in that time we worked, and that's when we were doing a lot of, and when we came back as the Daniel with all original material. And I remember that opening night we first played as the Daniel with all the new material. Do you guys remember that or no? We took that time off just to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I think that's where things really kicked off, and we were very well received, and people took enough interest in us that they would even wanted to fund our first album. I think it's supposed to be a secret, but someone said, "Look, make an album, and I'll pay for it." So that's what someone. So we made the first album. We recorded at a place up whatever. For me, it's down in Scarborough at Phase One. No, actually, the first thing we recorded was at Yonge Street Mission, wasn't it? Yonge Street Mission, and we mixed it at Phase One.
Right. That one came in. You started the band, I guess, officially January 1980. Is that the right date? Am I right?
I can't answer that. Dan, is there a date?
I think we first started playing around 79, but I think officially it was around 1980. Officially, yeah.
Right.
I think that's about right.
I think that's when you kind of said we are the Daniel Band.
Yeah.
So, and
And I remember we had a drum. Dan had a friend named Stu Lumsden. He drummed with us for a while, and then we decided to find a drummer that would be more suited to what we did. And so we actually auditioned a number of drummers, and we settled on a young lad named Peter Cosman. It was interesting in auditioning drummers because we had one guy, he came out, he was a terrific drummer, but he couldn't play, our stuff was too simple for him or something. He was a jazz drummer, and no matter what he did, we couldn't convince him to just to play a straight 4/4, kick, snare, kick, snare. He couldn't do it. He had to go, right. I guess maybe he was trying to impress us, but I remember then we finally found Peter Cosman, and he played, he was terrific rock drummer.
He's perfect. He's what I call a meat and potatoes drummer. He's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's when the Danny Band really became the Danny Band with the four of us. With Peter, Peter came on board. The four of us, that was the true Danny Band right there. Yeah, maybe some people would call it Canadian rock. I don't know. They say that we sound like Rush or trying. We weren't trying to mimic those bands. I don't think, not consciously anyway. But a lot of folks have compared us to those other Canadian bands. But
similarities between Rush and you guys, because Dan played bass and he sang, so people would always think, that similarity.
Yeah, he's got that high Geddy Lee voice. I admit. Yeah, that's what impressed me about him.
Yeah.
Man, can he ever sing high? What a range he's got.
Yeah, he does. I mean, that's proof this weekend.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cheryl, I'm dominating, but I got so many questions that I'm asking.
Go right ahead.
You had a relationship with another band that would have been considered in the same aspect of frontier Christian rock. You were frontier Christian rock for the Canadian market, and this band from the States, from Chicago, originally was a Resurrection band, and you had a good relationship with these guys, namely Glenn Kaiser, and all the stuff you were, and the Res Dan concerts that came about from and you like that, Bill? No, I always loved the fact that you guys did have an opportunity to have a band who was doing it a little bit longer than you, and the mentorship there, and also the spiritual aspect to it as well. So what was that like when you were first kind of as a band saying, hey, we're really doing this? Like, it led up to the eventual release of your first album, that relationship you had with the Res band.
First of all, I don't mind saying I wasn't expecting any of this. I thought we were a fill-in band. I thought we'd never be any more than a band that fills in for Harvest. And it was just for fun. So everything that happened along the way to me was always a surprise. The fact that we're making an album, that's a surprise. The fact that we're touring around the States and North America, that's a surprise. The fact that we're still around today after 40 plus years is kind of a surprise too, actually. But here we still are, which is great. I'm not complaining at all. This is great. But none of this was really planned or expected, I don't think. Dan, would you agree?
Yeah, and even when you're going back to the Res band thing, like, we didn't really have any plans. We just don't have plans. We really still don't. But but when it came to the Res band thing, we did this demo, and somehow it fell into Glenn Kaiser's hands in Chicago. We didn't contact him or anything. He just got this thing sent to him. I don't even know how. But Glenn always had this this burden, or this feeling for Canada. He had this love for Canada, and he contacted us and said, I just think you guys are going to do something in Canada. We need something like this in Canada. So he had this burden for Canada. So that's why he sort of latched on to us, said, these are the guys that are going to carry this in Canada.
I always had a feeling that something was ahead down the road for us, more than just what playing at the One Way and Coffee House in Southern Ontario. It's not ego. It was just I don't know. I don't know what to call it. I hesitate at saying it was prophetic, because I don't think that's a gift that I have, but it was a strong feeling that there was going to be a path laid out before us, and that we needed to follow it.
Yeah, I remember, Bill, when you said that. You said to Dan, and I said, I think this band's going to be really used by God, and I was thinking, really, you got to be kidding me. I didn't know. I didn't have that feeling. Okay, so you seem to be ahead of the curve here, bro. You seem to realize. You seem to see something that I didn't see. I don't know if Dan saw it either. But you definitely were. I think you're being inspired there to recognize something that's about to happen. Something important is about to happen. And I used to say, as long as Bill Finley is interested in this band, things will go places. And as soon as Bill loses interest, that's probably going to be the end. And Bill, I think, left the band in '88. Was it Bill? '89?
Yeah, it'll be late '80s. But
Yeah, and that's when we basically stopped playing. I think between '89 and 2000, we did 3 gigs or something. So
that's right. But it
so I was right. But my hunch was right. I thought if Bill Finley loses interest, or Bill Finley thinks that's it, then that is it. So we had about a 10-year run with Bill Finley, and then things just totally slowed down to near nothing. But things have obviously are picking up again. But interesting, Dan and I have noticed that we seem to be we're being given another season, as to use Dan's word that he used the other day. So we're just waiting to see what God is planning for us. We think something's.
But I'd like to make sure we dispel any rumors, or because people were coming up to me at coffee house gig just on the weekend here, and saying, we hear you left because of this or that and the other thing, and it wasn't out of lack of interest or anything. I mean, Jeannie and I had 3 children, and we were flying out of Canada at least 2 weekends a month, and many times more than that, and making albums, which took about 3 months of the year to put together. And I just felt that I have these 2 responsibilities, right? That God has laid on me, and I thought at the time, the number one responsibility at that point was my family, and to be with my children and my wife. So that's the reason. I missed these guys terribly. I missed playing terribly, but it was just.
I remember. Bill, I remember how I think what was happening is you were working during the day from Monday to Friday, and then as soon as you got home, Jeannie had to go and do a night shift. Yeah. So the only time you could see each other was on the weekends. But then on the weekends, you were with us gigging. So so it's understandably at some point you realize you've got to choose priorities, and shows your family. That's of course a good thing.
Yeah, she's a hero. She's a real hero.
She's a hero. Yeah, when Dan mentioned this the other night, when Daniel Ben was very busy with all the touring, Dan and I were both single. So we were just these 2 single guys having a grand old time, so putting a lot of time and effort into it. But Bill was a family man. He already had a couple of kids, 2 or 3 kids. Allie was already alive, right? We already had Allie at that time too, I take it.
Right.
So wife and 3 kids. So Jeannie is very highly deserving of an award.
Absolutely.
Most understanding wife award in the country or something.
Very true.
She's married to me for 46 years. She deserves the outstanding wife award.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Now, I also wanted to mention that you guys, when you went to do your first album, I think it was '82, you recorded at Yonge Street Mission. It took you a very short time, as far as albums are concerned, to put together for recording time. And you had Mark Wright. He was your engineer, I believe. Do you remember that time frame? Do you remember that time frame? What was that like for you guys in the studio for the first time, whatever that felt like?
Well, I remember it was kind of neat. As Glenn Kaiser, we were talking about Glenn Kaiser. He came up and helped us with it when we first did the first album.
And Roger Heights came
up and spent time with us. So that was really interesting. And they gave us a lot of good advice. They gave us some advice we didn't take, I remember as well. But it was, of course, it's exciting. It's fun. We had done a demo, and there's something about recording that you're not just practicing in your bedroom. Like this, you've kind of reached another level, another plateau in your musicianship. I'm actually recording something, and this is actually going to be an album with some good friends. So it was fun. It's exciting. I mean, we were young guys, and it was something that we loved to do, and something we enjoyed being together. We enjoyed recording. We enjoyed writing. It was it's all been good all the way along. It was good then. It's good now.
Now, what happened with this Q107 Battle of the Bands? Tell us about that. How'd that come about?
Q107, they had a contest every year, and you would send in a demo, and they would have it reviewed by a panel of professional musicians, bands that were touring around the Southern Ontario and maybe across Canada. But if they were available, they would adjudicate the submissions. And in this particular year, we were selected. Actually, I think it was by the guys who actually, they didn't actually tell us that we had been in the top 3. They couldn't really say that, but because they were in the studio at the same time we were, and they really couldn't say anything. But when they found out who we were, they said, "Oh yeah, I think you did pretty good." And we had no idea that we would come in 3rd in that contest, and got to play the Alma Combo.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I remember we were at whose place were we at? So we're at somebody's house in the basement, listening to the broadcast when they were going through the winners and starting at number 10 and going up. And I think when we hit number 5, we thought, oh well, we didn't make it in. But when we hit number 3, and they started in with playing Never Again, it's like everything seemed to. I was so excited, everything seemed to slow down, and I noticed how heavily compressed the broadcast was of the song, because the song is quite dynamic, and the compression from the radio station just kind of sucked a little bit of the life out of it. But we were very surprised, actually, humbled, really.
That's cool. Well, it was for me monumental because I went to Wexford Collegiate, and I think Tony knows a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But whenever I was listening to Q107 and I heard this, I thought to myself, what? So yeah, that was exciting for me.
Yeah.
It's saying for us too.
Yeah, I'm sure it was more so for you than for me.
Yeah.
But it was such an incredible blessing to have that played on secular radio. I was like, because the words in that song are so, spend your time chasing after gold. What good is that, my friends? It's like it was so like boom.
And lose your very soul. Yeah, I know.
It was so pertinent to so
in between Led Zeppelin and AC/DC.
Or whatever. It's like anyway. So that's from more. I mean, as a fan, it was like good stuff. Anyway.
I've been really quiet, but largely because I'm just fascinated by the journey, and I know Dale knows a little bit more about your journey than I do. But I did have a couple of questions during your 10-year span where you weren't playing together, and I know that Bill was working with. Did you still stay in contact with one another and just kind of keep each other up to date of what's happening, or you just literally just stopped playing and then if so, how did you reconnect?
Well, both Dan and I'm not sure about Bill, but maybe he can answer for himself. I think Dan played in a band called Dreamer for a while. I played in a band called TRB, so we kept active. Dan and I did, and Dan recorded some albums, and so did I. So there was still some, we still had our hand in it, but I think it was about 10 years later we did a reunion together, and that's when we finally touched base again. But there was about a decade that went by where there was very little contact, I would say. What do you think, Dan? There wasn't really a lot of contact about that decade.
Yeah, no, we always kept in touch with each other from periodically, but we're all busy doing our stuff, and I started doing a lot of worship music as well, and I still do to this day. But yeah, we still we were good friends, and we still connected with each other. But it was the ministry that brought us together on a regular basis.
I continue just composing myself. I have my recording set up here, and I composed and recorded a lot of music over the years. And so who knows? Maybe it'll get used someday.
How many albums have you guys recorded?
We have 5 studio albums, and then we did a live album in Chicago back around 2001. Was it, Dan, or something like that? 2001.
Yeah,
The
the
live. So that's the
Cornerstone.
6th album. Yeah. So that's and then other things have come out. Like there was an album that came out. The Axemen Cometh, where they took one of our songs and put it on in compilation with other other Christian bands. So there's bits and pieces of us all over the place. But we probably 5 studio albums and then the one live album. And that's Dan. Anything else you want to add to that? Is that right?
Yeah,
You agree?
no, that's about right. Yeah, there was bits and pieces that came up, different compilation things that came up all over the place. But yeah, we did the 5 studio albums and then the one live album. That was.
And now,
Okay,
Bill,
so
you have a whole bunch of songs.
yeah, Bill has been doing his own productions and fabulous writing. Cheryl and I were talking before the broadcast. Very kind of, what would you say, Cheryl? It's like
Kind of the feeling, like Simon Garfunkel meets the Beatles.
Garfunkel,
You
yeah.
know?
Oh, really?
A little bit
Well,
of
I have a
Beatlesque.
very eclectic taste in music, and my writing is the same way. Whatever hits me,
Mhm.
it's like I was saying earlier before we started the broadcast. Music to me, when I was a child, I thought it was just part of the air, and I thought of it as like sunshine and the scent of flowers. I thought it was just in the air everywhere until I was about 10 years old, camping with my dad up at Grundy Lake Provincial Park, and the music was in the park, and he couldn't hear it because I was making it up in my head. I didn't realize it till I was that old. And so music composition has always come naturally to me, and I have a very eclectic taste in music, and like I said, it kind of shows in my writing. Whatever comes to me and sounds very melodic, the genre doesn't matter to me, whether it's orchestral, whether it's heavy metal, whether it's Doobie Brotherish or Rush-ish, or you know, I just write it down and get it recorded.
So, Bill, does that mean you have another album of songs for the Daniel Band? Is
Yeah,
that what's going to come up next?
I'll let the cat out of the bag. I think Tony, Dan, and I should talk about doing some kind of recording, because
Actually,
these guys
I heard William. I heard them talking. I heard them talking on a broadcast from Area 312. Dan,
Yes.
Tony, remember you said this? You said you said you had a little chat. And you're talking about you would have to schedule that. Did you remember saying those words? Did you do that yet? Did you take a time and schedule some writing?
Not yet. Not yet.
No. Are you going to?
We've been preparing for other things. Like we had the big gig in Ohio about a month ago, and so
Yes, true.
Our purpose has just been able to play live again after a long time.
Yeah.
So getting our chops back, getting our stage legs back. So that's been our priority for the last little while.
I totally get that, but I really want to encourage you guys in love that you go on a writing retreat. Just find the time and bust out a cool new project and make everybody's jaw drop. That would be awesome.
Well, the thing is, you can do it now, and you don't have to go touring around like crazy like we did back in the day, promoting an album, right? Yeah. Which is a good thing. You can create music and put it out there, and see how God blesses it. I think it's a great opportunity we have nowadays.
I have a suggestion. If it's possible to do an unplugged version of some of your songs, I would love to hear that.
Actually, we did that, Dale. We did something like that. Remember, Dan, you and I sang about 5 songs. We took, I think, In the Sky. We took some heavy song. He's a creator. Some of the heavy guitar kind of sound, and Dan and I just sat on stools, and I played acoustic, and Dan sang. We already did that one night. I thought it sounded great.
I mean, on an album. I mean, recording.
Yeah, but it really, what I noticed, it really emphasized the lyrics, right? Is that we were writing from the
Yes,
heart,
yes.
and our love of the Lord, right? It really,
Yeah.
really shines through when if you can concentrate on the lyrics, and taking away all that
Right.
loud stuff seemed to really help.
Yeah.
The squealing, screeching
Yeah.
guitars and the drums and everything, and not just you just hear the lyrics. And wow, I was impressed. Like they were ministering to me. That I never heard them like that before. So it is a great idea,
Mm,
Dale. Maybe that we could do
yeah.
that. Also,
I think it'd be awesome.
tastes in music change. Like when we did what we did back in the 80s, I think what happened is our taste in music, the things that we liked to play and sing, and the way we were writing lined up with a big group of people who are waiting for that music, right? What are
Mm-hmm.
people waiting for now? I don't know if it's what we would do, right? It's just a different time, and it's a different era. Music, I mean, Bill, I've listened to Bill stuff, and I'm thinking, why didn't we do more Bill stuff? It's probably because we were appealing. We had a target audience, and our target audience where people were saying, I was listening to all, I was listening to AC/DC, and I was listening to Led Zeppelin, and finally I heard you guys. And now I can hear a music that I like, but has lyrics that edify me, right? So we filled a
Yeah,
gap
yeah,
at
yeah.
that time,
Yeah.
right? Or would we fill a gap now? What gap would we fill now? I'm not sure. Maybe the same gap. I don't know, right? So
Actually, that's a question we're
Well,
going to get into a little bit later. Cheryl and I have been talking about that, about the future of Christian music. Anyways, go ahead, Cheryl.
well, actually, I was just going to say, like, I've been watching the chat lines a little bit. You have some fans that are watching. Some of them are surprised you're here. They're like, "What? You got the Daniel band? That's awesome!" And but a couple people have said, and this is an encouragement. Um, they said they are so thankful for Christian rock. This is from I think it's Sue Ann. So thankful to have Christian rock, especially Canadian Christian rock, to grow my faith with all the help introduce others to Jesus. So she's using music to introduce others to Jesus, and it helped her faith too. So that's her.
Mm.
And said
good.
Daniel can too. Bring it on. Like he just said, just bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
like yeah. So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, many people are encouraged by your music, but go ahead, Tony. You were gonna say something.
No, I was just going to say, Dan and I played in Ohio about a month ago, and we had a meet and greet. The two of us spent an hour just having people come in the room and talk with us, and it's incredible what they were saying to us. Like things like, "When I was young, you guys were my youth pastor," And one guy said to me, he says, "You don't know this, but you've been my friend for years," and things like that, because he was encouraged by the lyrics and things like that. And we had people crying as soon as I walked into the venue. Somebody recognized me right away and came up and he was crying, telling me about how he had influenced our music had influenced him, and how to walk closely with God on, he's had a lifelong devotion to serving the Lord, and
Mm.
he credited a lot of that with us, being open about our faith
Yeah.
in our music. So it's just incredible what we saw, and it's all. And as I said earlier, it's a surprise to me. And Dan was saying this the other night, that we didn't realize that what was happening in this little basin when we were playing at One Way In would one day reach the world, because we've had contact from people from Germany, South Africa, like just everywhere around the world who've been affected by what we do. And it isn't so much the music. I think it's the lyrics are probably the biggest thing. Because if they wanted to hear good hard rock music, it was out there. It was already there. So we provided something. We provided an alternative, hopefully decent rock music at least, but with the lyrics that were encouraging instead of something that would pull you into the darkness. I think it was something that was pulling people up into the light.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Well
All right,
said.
we'll take a little second just to say, everybody, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching for the first time, don't forget to like this video and also subscribe. Please, we really would like you to subscribe. Build our fan bases, the GMIHub, and what we're doing. The more people subscribe, the more people will see. So I want you guys to just join on with us and hit the notification bell so you'll know the next time we put up a video. And that would be really, really nice of you to do that to us and for us. And if you have a comment, please put it into the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to know more about us, you can go to the gmihub.ca. GMIHub.ca is our website, and on there you find out more about us and what we're up to. You'll find out about our compilation Christmas CD. We have Volume 3 coming out this year, and so 1 and 2 is already out, and they're on Bandcamp, so I'll give you that information in a minute. But Volume 3 is coming out on November 4th, and we want you guys just to be aware of that. It's a compilation of Christian artists who are fairly new in the industry, and they have great music. And we brought them into this project, and they submit their songs, and it's been an incredible journey. And we want you guys to find out more about that if you go to gmihub.bandcamp.com, gmihub.bandcamp.com, and you can see the 2 ones that are up there right now, Volume 1 and Volume 2. The Volume 3 will be there, but not right now. So anyway, just want you to know we are out there. We are doing what we can for the Christian music industry, but go to the gmihub.ca and send us your email. We send out a monthly newsletter called The Hub Happening, and that goes out free of charge for you guys, and it's something that we just want to communicate with you what's happening. And maybe if you're an artist or you're a promoter or you're doing something that you want people to know about, let us know about it, and it will go into The Hub Happening. We want to be here for you guys. That's what the GMI Hub is all about.
And we are excited that on October 31st, which is actually next Monday, we are going to have a fantastic time of praise and worship. It's actually an artist showcase with a live concert with Fresh IE and 180. Fresh IE and 180 have been traveling across Canada doing concerts, and they're actually going to end their tour with us on October the 31st. They're doing a lot of concerts right now. So they are going to come end their tour with us October 31st. And this is very special because I think with 180, he actually shared that this is not this day is normally a day where he just stays quiet and he's home. He's usually not performing. So this would be a first for him to actually go out and perform and actually, use his giftings on the 31st, which is really awesome. And I'm so glad that we're going to have 4 artists, Amy Savin, Ray Toe, Trevor Dick, who's a violinist, and Dewaneja George, who's going to be streamed in from Guyana. So I'm looking forward to next week. Tune in. You'll get the artist showcase here on the live network, on the live stream, but you'd have to come in person for Fresh IE 180. You can get tickets at gmihub.ca. That was my commercial.
Very
good.
Well done.
Good.
Now I'm going to say a phrase, guys. I want your reaction from this. GMA Lifetime Music Award.
I wasn't expecting that either. I don't think Dan was either. Well, when I was a kid, who I really liked to watch was do you ever remember? This is before your time, Dale. There was a show called the Tommy Hunter Show, and it was like a country kind of thing. Maybe Bill would know. And I watched it regularly. I loved it. It was a great show, and he has that award. So when I found out I'm getting the same award as Tommy Hunter, like, yes, this is pretty good, right? So that was the most exciting part about that award for me, sharing something with Tommy Hunter.
Doesn't George Beverly Shea have the award too?
Yeah. Oh, George Beverly, that's not too bad. George Beverly Shea's good too. Yeah,
that's cool. That is very cool. Two ends of the spectrum,
Yeah, but the other side of that coin, do they tend to give that? And I'm asking more than I'm saying this. Do they give that to people when they think when they're done? Okay, you've had your turn, so here's an award. So I was wondering, because I saw some of these other folks and they're not around anymore. So is that why they're giving us this award, or I don't know. Right? But we're still around, right, Dan? Right?
We are. Yeah. No, I think we were up for that award many times, and it finally came about. So,
right.
And I think when we heard the stories from around that time, it was the kind of thing we're hearing now, that a lot of people grew up listening to us, and they just appreciate what we did.
Well, I have to share this. When we played 2 nights ago, a number of people came up to me. More, it was a couple at least, that said, I've been listening to you since I was in diapers, because my dad was a big fan of yours, and I've been listening to you all my life. So he was there, of course. Whoever sang was there with their father. So it's interesting that our band has now crossed generations.
Yeah.
Like we used to be a youthful band playing for youth. Now here we were playing for 2-3 generations of people, right? That was exciting for me, right? So
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah, I
I'd share
think
that.
to follow up with that story, I remember Tony when we went up to Chibougamau a few years back, and we played, and we had a picture taken with a fellow there that showed us a picture of him when he was a little boy, and now he's a grown man, and we took a picture with him with his little boy, and
Right.
it was just it was really wild to see that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
neat.
But Dan, maybe you noticed it. I was looking out, and there were people my age, like the old folks, of course. But then there were a lot of people in their 30s, and then there were little kids too. Jed, I saw a lot of them. People brought their grandkids out or whatever. And so it's nice to become a little more spread out with our. We were talking about the target audience. Well, our target audience now seems to be just about anybody, just about any age group, which is kind of neat.
Let me show you. I don't know if you can see this. It's a picture of me
All right.
with my grandson Tristan, and he's just a baby here, but he's 15 years old now. And
Wow.
anyway, it was so sweet of him to see. Like, he was there at the concert on Friday night, and he said, "Papa, I'm so proud of you." And it just I thought, oh man, that felt so nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. My grandkids were there. I got what I got from my granddaughters. Nonno, that because I'm Italian background. They call me Nonno. No, that was a good rock concert. So that was nice. That's nice to hear. My little granddaughter. I don't think she knew what a rock concert was that night. So that's good. We taught her what a rock
That's right.
You guys set the standards for your grandkids.
Well, I have a great granddaughter, so there you go.
What's really amazing, and you're right. I love the fact that your music is actually affecting generations upon generations. And I'm actually
Yeah.
curious to find this out. I don't know what your pulse is. Well, actually, what is your pulse on other music that's happening today? And what's your thought about that? And how would you, if you had the opportunity to, how would you help to either enhance it or change it?
That's a hard question, Cheryl.
I'm sorry.
um,
Okay, I'll start. That's
no,
actually going to be 3 questions or 4.
I know. Well, I'll start with this. When I was in high school, I think that when I looked around at all my fellow high school mates, my fellow students, we were all listening to Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Jimi Hendrix, I guess. And didn't matter who I talked to, that's what we were listening to. But I think if you look at high school kids now, there actually are going to be some kids listen, and I do know of kids who listen to the exact same bands I listen to, right? But then there's other kids who like disco, they like rap, or they like hip hop, and so it's a lot more diversified. So I don't think a band like can cover it all. Like if you were to say to the Daniel, why don't you guys try to appeal to the younger generation? It's like, well, how do you do that exactly? Because there's so many different tastes that are out there now, and the kids are it's a lot more diversified. Like when I was like, I still have long hair. But when I was a kid, everybody had long hair. Everybody.
Yeah.
Now I see kids. I see kids now that have long hair. I see kids with mohawks. I see kids that shave their head. I see kids that look like something out of the 40s, and it's very diversified. So it's a really different thing going on nowadays. So how to deal with that as a musician? I think all we can really do is we just be ourselves, do what we do, and there's going to be that group that will receive it, and there's going to be other groups that go, we don't like that. That's only fair, right? So I think what's good is that Christians of all stripes, of all musical genres, we should all get out there and just fill the world with God's music, whatever style you're doing, right? If you're a rapper, if you're a hip hop, serve the Lord with it. And I don't think any one of us can cover it all. I mean, but that's why we're, Christians are diversified. we're unified, and yet God allows us our differences and our different different personalities, different whatever it is, and it's all good, right? So as long as we're glorifying God with it, I say just get out there and fill the world with God's music, whatever style it is.
Yeah.
Preach it,
I love
brother.
it. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Did Dan or Bill have anything to add to that?
What's
No,
that?
I
I
think
think
it's.
for me,
So go ahead, Dan. I'm chewing the here. You go ahead. Speak plainly.
I think for me, we all go through different seasons and God has different assignments for us at different times, and it doesn't always stay the same. We go through these different times and seasons, and right, you think with Daniel Band, our purpose was to introduce people to Jesus. We were very an outreach band. We wanted to see people come to know the Lord, and that was primarily what we did. That's what we wrote about. And in the season that I'm in now, I'm an executive pastor. I'm a worship pastor. I've been doing worship music pretty much ever since Daniel Band stopped playing. My calling right now, although Daniel Band's calling still exists, as you can see from last weekend, but more than that, my calling now is to see people go into a deeper relationship with the Lord, and that's what I do through worship music. So I think there's these seasons that come and go, and so as long as we're occupied doing what God's asked us to do for that season, that's what's important.
Amen. Yep.
Amen.
Amen. I'm just getting more comments here. But Bill, you
That's what
had
my
something
wife
to say?
always says. There's a season. There's a season for everything, right?
Mhm.
And
As Solomon said that in the stew.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I'm sure.
And right now,
You remind
in the last little bit, Tony and I and Bill just recently, we played a couple songs with us last weekend, but I think that we're sort of heading into another sort of semi season with Daniel Band, but it's hitting. I think it's a touch point thing, and this is what I talked about the other night. Whereas that people, it's been so long since we were playing on a regular basis. Now they see us again, and there's a lot of people that never got a chance to see us, way back when, and so it's opening up a whole new kind of world. So it's I think it has something to do with touch points too.
I think the
Exactly
last
right.
Saturday night, yeah, Dan mentioned that touch points, and it
Oh
made
yeah.
I appreciate that, Dan, very much. That wrap up was just amazing. And it is true. I think that everybody has a thing in their life that makes them think about those things they need to when it comes to their relationship with God. And sometimes it's music, sometimes it's an environment or a person or something like that. And those those definitely do minister to people.
Well, if I can bring in some comments again from the audience.
Yes, please do.
um, I love this. It's a little busy here, so just bear with me. We got a question for Bill. One
Oh,
question for Bill was, do you have a chance or will you have a chance to use any of your many, many songs that you have there? Will you have a chance to use them or get them out there?
yeah, it's a good question. I have so many. I don't know what to do with them, and I open to suggestions. I've got them up on some of them up on SoundCloud, as well. There's a handful on YouTube as well, that people can listen to. It's hard to. I don't think I'd know where to start, to be quite honest. Um, so I guess since the question's been asked, I'm going to have to start thinking about that because if people are asking, then I really should, respond to that in a positive
Yeah.
way. So I have to put that on shouldn't say the back burner. I'll bring it from the back burner and put it on the front burner now and do some thinking about that because I have done a lot of writing. And the thing
Yes.
is, to speak to what Tony was saying about there's a lot of different styles out there. How can a band can't do it all? So I think what you're saying, Tony, is quite correct. Is that if you're going to do something, you've got to do what you really feel is your style, or and especially according to what Dan said is, about lyrically, pointing out to the lyrics that we just want to glorify God. And something that Tony said years ago that I still remember is that, we're not out here trying to be, like, we are not beacons of shining light, right? We're sinners just like everybody else. And as Tony said years ago, we're just beggars who have found food, telling other beggars where they can find food. And I think as long as that message and that energy is there and being true to your calling, then I think the style of music, you'll just put the style of music out there, and people will respond. The people who are supposed to respond to it will, like,
Sure.
like in some right that way. So, to answer your question, I'm not sure how I would do it, but I will think about it.
That's awesome. And to want everybody else to know that Dan McCabe has put out some worship albums. He's also been on Dreamer. If you go back and look at some of the releases Dreamer's put out, you can hear his voice as well. And Tony, through the TRB band, that's the 10 years that I got closer to Tony. I think through TRB, we really started bonding and we became good friends throughout that time period. But so each one of these guys, pardon me?
You sang on one of the songs on the TRB album. You did some harmony vocals.
Yeah, I enjoyed that very much. Yeah. And it's funny because you talked about how some people came to you and said to you you were inspirational for them in their music, and you have been that to me. Because I wouldn't be doing music today.
Good, cool. Glad to hear that.
Yeah,
that's great.
And now he's got 2 songs out there.
That's right. That's right. And one went to number 5 on Newfoundland. Woohoo!
Nice.
Awesome.
cool.
Wow.
That's so
Very
amazing.
cool.
One question I have is, what's next for the Daniel Band now?
Yeah.
Well, when Dan and I were being interviewed, how long was it? About a few weeks ago? Dan, people are asking about another album, and so I think I had suggested, Dan, we should get, and Dale touched on this, we should get together, maybe try to write some songs, maybe Bill as well, and maybe do another album. That's not impossible. I also foresee that we're going to be playing live a bit more than we used to. I think we've seen people are showing the band live, and at the risk of sounding like I'm bragging, we haven't lost it. We can still play. We can still sing. We get out there.
Oh,
I still do my bunny hops on stage.
Oh my gosh, that was great. I see you doing this, and I'm going, he still got it. And Dan's like, wow. I noticed Dan's going, okay, Tony, go ahead.
He tolerates me. So he's good. He's patient man. So.
Hey, you know what is amazing to me though is the fact that Dan can play bass and sing lead at the same time. Like, if you ever, anybody who's listening, take a good listen to Run from the Darkness, okay, and listen to the bass pattern and the singing that Dan is doing, and you find, and it's not just because it's a studio where he was, playing bass and then he does the vocals over. He does the same thing live, right? Now, there is something that amazes me every time I hear you sing that song.
Yeah. Well, you're too kind, brother. You're too kind.
No, I'm telling it like it is, bro. I'm telling it like it is. You're a gift. You're a gifted man. So is Antonio Rossi. Please. You are gifted, and I've watched, because I'm you guys since the very beginning, turn into really, and not that you weren't godly men, but godly youngsters, and seen you just blossom into real godly men who are consistent, right, in their walk, and it's really encouraging rather to me to have seen that over the years. the consistency.
Well, thank you, bro. That's why we called Bill Father Willie. He was the father figure of the band that kept things
Father
in
Willie.
tow.
I
Yeah.
remember you saying that once many years ago, and I thought to myself, and that makes sense because Billy's kind of the glue that holds the band together.
Yeah, he's the father figure of the band, not because of age, but just that was his
No,
role,
no.
right? More
I
than
just for the
anything.
HTV. No, I'm just kidding. Just
Let me
So,
quote Neil Delandry, our manager, who is probably the most talented person that was ever associated with Daniel Band. But he said that that with Daniel Band, it was that the whole was greater than the sum of the parts, right? That there's, and that of course is the Holy Spirit. And oops, that's my alarm telling me to take my new medication that's allowing me to actually do all this. I was waylaid for decades with a disease that was just awful. It's still with me, but my medication now that they've changed is working wonders. So, but anyway, no, that was what Neil Delandria said, was that the whole was greater than the sum of the parts, and that is true. So true. And
if I could just add to what Bill said there, we often would stand around marveling because there's, especially in California, there was a band on every street corner that was way better than us, and we could never figure out what was going on, and it was just God just did things, and we were just blessed. It just happened, and it was just a unique time and a unique group of guys that God called together, and it worked.
Right. And the thing is, before that we weren't. I used to say that God hasn't called us to be perfect, just faithful. The Scripture does say to be perfect, as I am perfect. But that's because the blood of Christ covers us, and He sees us as perfect. But I think people fall into this thing about how good they have to be in order to serve God. And the thing is, that's not the case. The blood of Christ keeps on cleansing us. So I would just encourage people to, what do you like to do, right? And do that, but honor God while you do it, and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, gentlemen, again, I'm getting more comments. um, you know, big appreciation for you staying true to yourselves and true to your music, because to be honest with you, authenticity is what's, I think, is going to carry you through to Daniel Band 3.0, if you want to call it that. Still getting comments about Friday and Saturday night being absolutely awesome. And yes, someone did bring their two sons, 8 and 13-year-old, to your concert. And they were all of them, all ages, were deeply blessed. We're still getting comments about, Friday show, absolutely amazing. So still getting comments. What can I say? You guys have absolutely left a legendary mark in the Canadian, for the Canadian music scene, as well as just around the world. I mean, we hear Daniel Band, and some people know you, some people don't, but when they do know you, they know you. When they know your music, and it has that impact. And what I'm thoroughly blessed about is what you said, Donnie, earlier, which is that the reason you all came together, and the reason why you even called the Daniel Band, is because for you guys, the word is there's no compromise. There's no, be wishy-washy about where you stand with Christ. It's this is what we are, this is who we are, and this is what we believe, and this is what we're going to sing about, and this is the truth, and this is, the fact that you're
Amen.
just so strong on that. I think is quite an example, and it's an example that can live on and on and on for generations to come. And And I thank you guys for doing that. I thank you guys for being that example for us as musicians and the musicians that are coming up. Thank you for being like way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also wanted to give a blessing to Dan. I understand that you have been you're on staff at a church, and God's put you in a position which is quite amazing. I know you went to Tyndale, you did your studies and all that, but you're now working in the ministry of a church. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we should be praying for Bill and Dan and Tony as their life continues. There's other ministry opportunities that have been made available. So we just want to remember you guys in prayer for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
Thanks, Dale.
I think we need to check out the worship at Dan's church.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
It's going to be a little different than Daniel Band, but yeah, you can check it out at.
Just a little bit different. Well, Tony's not there, so it's got to be different.
Yeah, Tony's not there.
Okay.
Although I did find his double that he plays with
really?
me. Tony met him on Saturday night. So it's at I'm at the Olive Branch Church in Markham. So tob.ca. If anybody wants to check it out, you can see what I'm kind of doing week to week.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Congratulations on your 43rd anniversary, and dare I say, many more years to come. And what else can I say? Like, thank you. Just thank you for being here, and thank you, viewers, for being here. And supporting these gentlemen and support. Thank you for showing up and sharing these comments. We will be sending these to the Daniel Band so that they can see the words that you're sending that encourage them as well. And I just love their heart. I just love the fact that, again, that they are just so strong on being really authentic about their belief about God, and that they're such a great example for us as musicians. So I thank them again. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Tony, for being here. Thank you, all of you, for watching. And next week, remember that next week is the Artist Showcase. We'd love for you to tune in next Monday, where you will see artists Amy Savin, right? Rayto, Demonesia George, and Trevor Dick, when they are Canadian artists, well, with the exception of Demonesia, 3 Canadian artists and 1 international artist that are really tuning in, and they're going to be sharing their original music. And this is just one of the things that GMIHub does to encourage artists and give them a platform where they can share their art. And that is, and I'm so thrilled that we're going to have Fresh IE and One with us as well, that are going to do their last concert of their tour with us. And if you want to be a part of that, please go to gmihub.ca to grab your tickets. So we hope to see you next week, and we thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great one. Bye for now.
Bye.
God bless you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you to Daryl for all the tech stuff he's been doing.
Daryl, for running the show. Daryl's awesome.
Yes.
Cheryl, you have a great smile.
Thank you.